Have you ever done something kind for a complete stranger without expecting anything in return? Most people believe those small moments disappear forever. But sometimes, one simple act of kindness can open a door you never imagined. Today's story is about a hardworking black single father whose ordinary day changed forever because he stopped to help an elderly man. What happened next proved that kindness always finds its way back, often in the most unexpected and beautiful ways. Stay with us until the very end, because this emotional journey will remind you that the smallest good deed can change not just one life, but many. This is a story about hope, family, second chances, and the incredible power of treating people with compassion. Before we begin, please take a moment to subscribe to Kindness Waves, give this video a like, and leave a comment telling us where you're watching from. Your support helps us continue sharing inspiring stories that remind the world that kindness still exists. Marcus Johnson was 35 years old and lived in a quiet neighborhood outside Atlanta, Georgia. Every morning before sunrise, he prepared breakfast for his 8-year-old son. Caleb packed his lunch and drove him to school before heading to work. Life had not been easy since Marcus lost his wife to a sudden illness 4 years earlier. Since then, he had carried every responsibility alone. Marcus worked long hours as a delivery driver. The pay wasn't great, but it covered the rent, groceries, and Caleb's school supplies. Although money was often tight, Marcus always reminded his son that kindness cost nothing. People may forget your words, he often said, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. One rainy Saturday afternoon, Marcus stopped at a home improvement store to buy supplies for a small repair in their apartment. As he walked across the parking lot, he noticed an elderly man struggling to lift several heavy wooden boards into the back of his pickup truck. Many shoppers walked right past him without making eye contact. Everyone seemed busy with their own lives. Marcus didn't hesitate. He placed his shopping bags on the ground and smiled. "Sir, let me give you a hand." The old man looked surprised. "You don't have to do that, son." Marcus simply smiled again. "I know I don't have to. I want to." For the next 15 minutes, Marcus carefully loaded every board, secured them with straps, and even rearranged the tools so nothing would fall during the drive. The elderly man watched him with grateful eyes. "My name is Harold," he said as they finished. "I'm Marcus." Harold reached into his wallet. "Please let me pay you." Marcus gently shook his head. "No, sir. Keep your money. Maybe one day you'll have the chance to help someone else." Harold smiled warmly. "Young man, people like you are becoming rare." Marcus simply waved goodbye and drove home, never expecting to see Harold again. A week later, Marcus received an unexpected phone call. The voice on the other end sounded familiar. "Marcus, this is Harold from the parking lot." Marcus smiled. "Of course. How are you doing?" "I'm doing well. Thanks to your help. I'd like to invite you and your son to dinner this Sunday, if you're comfortable with that." Marcus hesitated for a moment, then accepted. Sunday evening arrived, and Marcus and Caleb drove to Harold's beautiful countryside home. The house wasn't fancy, but it was filled with warmth, family photographs, and laughter. Harold welcomed them with a hug. During dinner, they talked about family, work, and life. Caleb quickly became fascinated by Harold's stories about serving as a volunteer firefighter many years ago. Halfway through the meal, the front door opened. A woman walked inside, carrying a basket of fresh bread. She smiled politely. "Dad, I'm sorry I'm late." Harold stood up. "Marcus, I'd like you to meet my daughter, Emily." Emily was kind, confident, and worked as a pediatric nurse at a local children's hospital. She greeted Marcus warmly, and the conversation flowed naturally for the rest of the evening. Unlike many first meetings, there was no awkward silence. They laughed together, shared stories, and discovered they both loved reading, hiking, and helping their communities. Before Marcus and Caleb left, Harold quietly pulled Marcus aside. "You know," Harold said with a smile, "I didn't invite you here because I wanted to repay you." Marcus looked confused. "I invited you because character matters more than anything else. The way you helped a stranger without expecting anything told me exactly what kind of man you are." Marcus didn't know what to say. Over the next several months, Marcus and Emily stayed in touch. Sometimes they met for coffee. Sometimes they took Caleb to the zoo or the park. Emily never tried to replace Caleb's mother. Instead, she became a trusted friend who genuinely cared about both of them. Caleb adored her. One afternoon, While the three of them volunteered together at a neighborhood food pantry, Caleb looked up at Emily. "You make my dad smile again." Emily's eyes filled with tears. "So does he." Marcus heard those words and realized something had quietly changed inside him. For years, grief had convinced him that happiness belonged in the past. But kindness had opened a new chapter. A year after that rainy afternoon in the parking lot, Marcus stood once again beside Harold. This time, they weren't loading lumber into a truck. They were preparing for a family barbecue in Harold's backyard. Children played in the grass. Neighbors laughed together. Caleb chased his cousins around the yard with a bright smile. Harold placed a hand on Marcus's shoulder. "You remember the day we met?" Marcus laughed. "I was just helping someone load a truck." Harold smiled. "No, you were showing your heart." Everything that followed began with that moment. Marcus looked across the yard and saw Emily laughing with Caleb. He realized Harold was right. Life often changes in quiet moments that seem ordinary at the time. Months later, Marcus asked Emily to marry him beneath the same oak tree where the family had gathered so many times. She happily said yes. Caleb hugged them both before anyone else had a chance. Harold wiped away tears of joy. "I always believe kindness creates miracles," he whispered. "It certainly created this family." Years later, Marcus often shared the story with young people at community events. They usually expected some secret to success. Instead, Marcus simply smiled and said, "Hold the door. Help someone carry a heavy box. Listen when someone needs to talk. Smile at a stranger." Small acts of kindness may seem ordinary, but they can change lives forever. Mine certainly did. Every person who heard his story walked away with the same powerful reminder. You never know what someone is carrying inside their heart. A few minutes of your time, a helping hand, or a simple act of compassion may become the turning point in someone else's life. And sometimes, without even realizing it, that same kindness comes back to change your own life in ways you never imagined. If this story touched your heart, remember that kindness is never wasted. It has the power to heal, inspire, and bring people together across every background and every generation. Be the reason someone believes that good people still exist. The world becomes brighter every time one person chooses kindness. Until next time, keep spreading love, keep believing in hope, and keep creating waves of kindness wherever you go.